Alright guys, so this week I'll be playing Blue-White Control instead of Esper. This is essentially the deck list that Ivan Flock played to first place at the most recent PT. They only made a couple of changes and I'll go through them in just a second. So, the fundamental of a control deck is to just draw more cards than your opponent, just kill all their threats, whether they're creatures or planeswalkers, and then just flood them in card advantage with Sphinx's Revelations, and then you kill them slowly with the Moonavolt. Use Jace's ultimate to use their win conditions against them, or kill them, mill them out with Elixir, or in my case, I took out the fourth Quicken for Elspeth because I want to win quicker. Um, I debated between kind of putting the Elspeth or the Aetherling. Aetherling is definitely quicker, but Aetherling and Elixir both provide inevitability. Elspeth provides a bit more utility. You can create chump blockers and kill big creatures. So in the end, I decided to go with Elspeth. It's a bit annoying to play Elspeth and Planar Cleansing in the same deck, but we've played Elspeth and Fatal Retribution in the same control decks before, and it hasn't been that much of a problem. So we play 26 lands. We play 6 of each basic because they come and play untapped, and that is excellent in a format where Rebel Red is actually a real deck. I replace his blue and red scries with black ones because if we play those, people might think we're playing Esper. It's probably correct to play whichever color you think will put your opponent off the most. I cut one Gate for third Mutavault because once again, I want to kill my opponents a bit quicker. Having a third Mutavault means by the time you gain control, you're very likely to have much more likely to have a second Mutavault, which means you can end the game in about 4 or 5 turns. I cut the fourth Azorius Charm for a third Last Breath because Ivan plays 4 in his whole 75 anyway. I really like Last Breath. I think 4 is too many, but 2 is generally too few, so I cut the third. And Azorius Charm, a lot of the times, is just a Cyclone card, and you don't really miss the fourth copy. 3 Divinations just to smooth out our draws. 3 Jace instead of 4, because having our 3 Divinations means we have 6 ways to draw cards. And you don't really need a fourth. And a lot of matchups, Jace only has one ability of the -2, so we don't need that many ways to draw cards. And of course, we have Force Sphinx's Revelations, which is a staple in any control deck. As for the rest of our answers, we play 4 Verdicts. That's also a no-brainer. 3 Planar Cleansings. The Planar Cleansing is what defines this build from different other control builds. Is that we don't play Detention Spheres. For those of you who don't know, you can't play Planar Cleansing and Detention Sphere in the same deck because your Planar Cleansing will destroy your Detention Sphere and they get their permanent back after the cleansing resolves. So that's really bad. We play 3 Quickens. As I said, the original list played 4. Quicken, in addition to just being a sweet cycler in the first few turns, for 5 mana, you can play Supreme Verdict in your opponent's turn, killing their haste creatures and killing their manlands. Or same thing with Planar Cleansing. And sometimes if your opponent just does nothing, you have nothing to counter, you can Quicken and Divination in their turn, so you draw 3 cards while spending 2 and you're gaining 1 card net. As for the rest of our reactive spells, we have 4 Dissolves and 2 Syncopates, which has also been the norm. You could alternatively play a 3rd Syncopate, but there isn't really space for that in this deck, so a 2-4 split is probably correct. 1 Elspeth, as I mentioned before, just wanted a quick win con. If you're really confident in your speed with control, you can just play the 4th Quicken and just only have Elixir as your win con. But I really don't like going to time. Even if you play really quickly, sometimes your opponent might play really slowly, so having a quicker win con that also doubles as a card that helps you stabilize is really good. And of course, the other defining card of this deck is Elixir of Immortality. So no matter what happens, you'll always have gas, and as you draw and play more lands, the threat density of your deck just becomes insane every time you use Elixir of Immortality. Alright, so here we have the sideboard for this deck. The sideboard is quite different to the Ivan's sideboard. There are a few cards I don't really like there. The first difference is that we replace the Dispels with Negate. With so much Mono Black running around, as well as Planeswalker decks, the Negate is much better than a Dispel. It's not often that just having a Dispel is better than having a Negate, even the control mirrors. So the Negates, I feel, are probably 90% better. 2 gainsays for the mono blue matchup, as well as the mirror. 2 card Angel of Thunes against any decks with planeswalkers, aggro decks, as well as mono blue, which I guess you call it aggro, which you definitely call an aggro deck. They pretty much can't deal with this card, and most opponents will just board out the removal because they have to, and you bring in this, and they often won't have an answer to it. We also play Jace as another threat. Jace is pretty much for the control mirror, and as well as mono black. If they can't deal with it, it's just a constant stream of cards, and also doubles as a win condition. We have 4 Next Place Rams against the aggro decks and burn decks, and it can combo really well with Archangel Thune if you ever get there, although that's just gravy and it's completely unnecessary. And even if Archangel said, this does not trigger when you gain life from Next Place Ram, we'd still play these 6 cards. We have the 4th Last Breath for whenever it's relevant, so against aggro decks, mono black, mono blue, etc. The card's just too good, and in a straight blue-white deck, when we're not playing black removal spells, the 4th is quite necessary. Moving over here, we have 2 Deicides, just to do with random enchantments. Comes in against the mirror if they're playing the Detention Sphere version. Comes in against some mono black decks where you can kill the Error Boss with the Underworld connections, because sometimes you just can't wait till 6 mana to play a Cleansing to deal with the connections. It's really good against mono blue because we don't have Detention Sphere for their Thassa. Thassa as a god is of course indestructible, so we need more ways to kill it. So apart from countering it, we need a Deicide to get rid of it. The Pro Tour list only ran 1. I didn't want to be vulnerable to mono blue decks, so I just had to play a second. And lastly, we have Celestial Flare. This we found space for 1 more card after taking the second Last Breath and moving it to the main deck and cutting in the Azorius Charm. And I decided to play Celestial Flare because it gives us an out to all the Miscolored Hydra decks and any deck that just top decks and slams a hasty creature. You have no way of dealing with that except for having a Dissolve, which you've probably already used many of in a grinding game, or a Quicken Verdict. And as you move to a late game, you're not going to have many cards in your hand. Your Quickens have either already been cycled or used, and Celestial Flare saves you from would-be lethal Miscutters and Stormburst Dragons. And that's pretty much the deck. I hope you enjoy the games.